The MBTI test, or the Myers-Briggs indicator, is one of the most well-known psychological tests all around the world. And that's not weird. I mean, it only takes you a little search on the internet and just clicking on a web page to find this. This is a psychological test which, with a few questions, is going to tell you what kind of person you are. And as I just said, you just need to answer some questions. They are actual statements and you need to answer if you agree or disagree with them. These statements about yourself are going to reveal at the end of the test which kind of person you are. And bam! Just like that, I obtained that I am an architect, whatever that means. This test even gives me my personal characteristics. They are in chart and all. And they even give me my professional path. And all of this with only some little questions. And it is not as if I don't want a webpage to totally define who I am as a person, but this kind of thing makes me a little skeptical. And the thing is that the MBTI test actually categorizes the people personalities into 16 different categories. And this is useful, I think so at least, but it does remind me of something different which some people actually believe that could predict one person's personality. And I mean, what's really the difference between just going up my horoscope and then seeing what does it say about my personality instead of just taking this test? I mean, the first one does seem to be a bit more scientific, but is it that really the case? Are we really so simple that we could be predicted and we could be understood by only a few little questions about ourselves? Well, that's the thing that we're going to be answering in this video. We define personality as the individual differences in characteristic patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. This definition implies that only psychological things are included into the definition of what personality describes. Things like the appearances or the things that a person is wearing are not part of one's personality. Another of the key aspects of personality is consistency. If you do something, if you behave in a certain way, if you feel something in a certain place or in a certain setting, only in that setting, then that's not part of your personality. This is because personality is something which is consistent along different settings. So if you do something in school, if you do that same thing at your parents' house or in every place in general, then that's part of your personality. It's something which is consistent in every place you are and in almost every kind of situation. By this definition, it is implied that only characteristic patterns are taken into account by defining personality. This means that only the things we do in a normal basis, the things we repeat the most, are the things which are taken account in personality. But is this really true? Is this really the correct definition of what personality is? We could consider it. I mean, the situations we face affect us. Is it really fair to say that that's not part of personality? Well, there are many different postures about what personality is, so there are different definitions of personality, some taking into account the situations and some other not. In this video, we're only going to focus in 3 different theories of personality, this being the psychodynamic theories, the social learning theories, and the trait theories. Now let's talk first about the psychodynamic theories of personality. These theories are inspired by the works of Freud, who is the founder of psychoanalysis. Freud thought that the mind was divided into 3 different aspects or 3 different main components: the id, the ego, and the superego. These different components are in charge of controlling different aspects of ourselves. Now, in regard to personality specifically, it is considered in this theory that it is developed during 5 different stages of psychosexual development. So by the thinking or according to Freud, and to the psychoanalysis, these stages of psychosexual development are the ones which are in charge of defining who are we going to be in the future, what is going to be our personality. Now, talking about the social theories, we need to talk about situations because these theories are very situational. They argue that our personality is based on our social environment, mainly on our social environment, because we observe and we learn about what our society is actually showing us. So we observe that maybe someone gets a reward when they do something, and then even if we don't get or got that reward, then we also want to do that because we have already observed that a reward is awarded to that person because he did something. So according to this theory, it is more important how we perceive the world around us than how it really is. So according to this, the environment we are in, both socially and also our physical environment, affect how we are, affect our personality, and are going to define how we are going to behave. Now finally, and this is an antagonic, or it is thought to be antagonic to the last one, it's the one which is based on traits, the trait theory. According to this theory, there are certain dimensions, psychological dimensions. So we have, for example, introversion and extroversion. Now, in the past, it was thought that a person could be just introverted or extroverted. They were only classified at the extreme points of this classification. Nonetheless, the trait theory in the present actually considers this to be a spectrum. You are not or either introverted or extroverted, you are in some point between those two. So trait theory categorize or try to categorize the behavior of a person into different main categories, because we can actually classify a person in different traits. We have different words which describe how a person behaves. So this theory actually develops a set of categories, a set of traits which are the most important, and according to those, and classifying a person into those, is that a personality emerges. This theory considers that only the most notorious patterns and the ones that repeat a long time and along different kind of settings, those are the ones who should be taken into account when talking about personality. Well, now that we have observed the different postures regarding personality in psychology, let's go back a few steps. Well, first of all, let's answer, how can we measure personality? First of all, it's good to remind that personality isn't something that you measure with a number. It would be silly to have a 10 in personality, for example. We instead measure it with traits, for example. So now we have to understand that there are different kind of measures for personality. There are measures which are done by self-report questionnaires. There are questionnaires which are done to external people, to the person who is being studied. There are also behavioral measures, and finally there are tests. All of them have both advantages and disadvantages, and it's something good to understand that none of them is going to tell you perfectly who are you and how are you going to perform, behave, and feel. Nonetheless, it is good to know that not all of them are trustworthy, and there are some which are more trustworthy than others. For an instance, the test which is in the image, the one that consists in identifying what kind of shape you figure out into that black mess, that's a test which has been critiqued by other people and which isn't really trustworthy. So by identifying that none of the tests is 100% functional and that there are some tests which are more trustworthy than others, I think we can extract from all of this a very important idea that can tell us if the test we had at the beginning have any kind of credibility at all. So going back to the beginning of the video, to the original test we had, I think it is fair to say right now that we aren't that simple. We aren't that simple so that a simple little set of questions can actually tell us what our personality is. We aren't that simple, nonetheless, there are some tests which are very accurate on that. That's not to be dismissed. Nonetheless, this is not one of those tests. The MBTI test is based on psychoanalysis ideas, and psychoanalysis is a theory which has been disproved by many different scientific research, by many different scientific facts which have been gathered with the pass of time. So the MBTI may be very famous, but it doesn't have much of a scientific basis. Now, going back to this idea of personality, we have already understood that even between psychologists, it's something which is a debate topic. So, personality isn't simple. It's a very complex phenomena that we have understood very vaguely. We have a lot to understand about personality, and yet we cannot predict anyone yet. So I just want to let this one idea be the main point and the main thesis of the video. Personality is complex, and we have a current definition of it. Nonetheless, this is not something which can predict someone or their actions in the future. That's something that we are far from achieving. Personality is complex because we are complex as individuals. Therefore, at the time being, we are unpredictable.